And welcome in to another edition of the Hustle Show podcast. For this Hustle Short on Wednesday, November 1st, we have officially turned the calendar to a new month. Alongside Adam Trigger, I'm Mark Zinno here to get you through this Wednesday. We got Major League Baseball World Series to get to, as well as our weekly Survivor discussion in the NFL. Trigg, always great to be with you, man. How are you on this Wednesday? How's the week treating you?
Mark, the week not treating me great so far. It's just one of those things, though, right? Like I ended last week with 5 straight winners, and now I've got 5 straight losers. It's what we go through, the ebbs and flows of betting on sports. But we've got a whole weekend of football coming up. College basketball starts on Monday, so I'm excited nonetheless, and looking forward to getting back in the win column here.
And make sure you guys go to Wager Talk TV and check out Trigger's 30 teams in 30 days for college basketball, which just wrapped up yesterday, right? I mean, we're all done with all 30 teams at this point.
Yeah. Actually, so we've got a couple more, but we're just about done filming them. We're going to film the last couple tomorrow. We'll run a new one each day right up through Monday, and then we're going to put them all on the Wager Talk YouTube channel. So keep a lookout for that. The 30 teams, Mark, are all teams I went and saw play in person last year. So the preview's kind of all over the place. I've got big name schools like Michigan State, Syracuse, Duke, Michigan, Missouri, Kansas State. And then I've got the little guys like Canisius, Lafayette, Texas State, just some random ones, Marist, Fairfield, Siena. So it's kind of a unique preview. Probably not the 30 teams anyone else has done, but it should give you some good insight into each of them, and specifically the smaller conference ones. There should be some nice edges you can find there.
I'm glad you didn't neglect to mention your beloved Siena Saints right in your backyard there in upstate. Just a very fun school to go watch play college hoops. That's for darn sure, and a great environment for a small school. All right, we got World Series Game 5 rather tonight. 3-1 lead for the Texas Rangers as they put on a offensive performance last night, and the Diamondbacks have their literal backs against the wall here, trying to avoid elimination. They'll get Zach Gallen going up against Nathan Eovaldi here. Prices look about even on the money line, around -108, -110, both sides here. So we get a total of 8.5. Look, I will give you my take real quick. I think there are two ways to play this. Diamondbacks first 5 and first 5 under. That's the only way I would attack both of these games, just because with Gallen on the mound, we know how good he's been at home this entire year. Despite the fact his postseason stat lines don't look fantastic, he's done very good the first and second time through the order. It's the third time that seems to get him into a little bit of trouble here. And when you get a situation like this, Trigg, with your ace on the mound at home where he's been so good all year long, if you can't get ace-level stuff from him, well, then go scratch. What do you want me to tell you? I mean, if he doesn't have his good start from the beginning, the D-backs are dead in the water and they're losing in 5 games. So I'm not sure you see it breaking down here, but that's kind of the two ways I looked at tonight's game.
Yeah, I'm going down with the ship here, Mark. I've played the Diamondbacks in Game 3 and Game 4 with the thought process that I didn't think this series would get out of hand. This felt like a competitive series, especially after the first 2 games. It felt like the Diamondbacks were the better team after the first 2 games, and I thought they'd get at least one in Arizona. So, well, they didn't get Game 3 and they didn't get Game 4. So this is their last chance. We're either going to cash a ticket or we're going to be done with MLB to the spring. But I still think the price is a little bit watered down on the Diamondbacks. Garcia going out for the Rangers didn't matter yesterday, but it certainly matters. I mean, he's been the heart and soul of this team through this run. And, to take him out of the lineup is still a big deal. He's probably their MVP. I mean, you could make a case that Seager's been incredible too. But I would say Garcia's been their playoff MVP, especially for the last couple of weeks. So him being out of the lineup the rest of the way, in my opinion, is a big deal. And, with these 2 pitchers, Zach Gallen and Nathan Eovaldi, neither of which were great in Game 1, and both have kind of struggled, their last couple playoff starts. I still think I'd rather have Gallen on his home field with his back against the wall, trying to extend this series. I talked about Gallen's hard hit rate being up, and it is, but, he was really good at making adjustments during the season. When he pitches after an Arizona loss, he's 9-4 with a 2.64 ERA. And I almost like that he got knocked around a little bit in Game 1, because I think he can make the adjustment and pitch better here. I don't have as high of hopes for Eovaldi doing that. His last 3 starts, 5.29 ERA. I think we're finally seeing some of the regression that I think I always expected to happen with him. And then if it gets to the bullpens, man, I mean, you're talking about Arizona's going to be, I mean, it's do or die. Their season's over. So there's absolutely no reason that they wouldn't run Ginkle, Paul Sewald, and Ryan Thompson right into the ground here because it's win or go home. And I think they're going to ride those three till the wheels fall off after Gallen tonight. Whereas, you saw Bochy put Leclerc in the game last night, up 6 runs. I don't think he's really that worried about who's in the game late. I think this is, Bochy's been around this forever. He's won series. This game, like, he's not going to worry about losing this game too much, in my opinion, in terms of where he'd like max out leverage relief guys. I think he wants to make sure he's nice and set up to have game 6 and game 7 in his favor at home. So listen, I mean, if the Rangers are the better team, they're going to win tonight. But if this is a close game, I think the Diamondbacks have some advantages that make them worth playing on the, essentially at even money. So I laid minus 103, and hopefully the third time's a charm for me, Mark. It is a client play, 4% best bet. I hope the Diamondbacks give us at least one more day of baseball in our future.
Yeah, I mean, the bullpens to me is, I think, where this whole thing has really been decided. I mean, I know Texas, the last 2 games, jumped out to an early lead thanks to the umpires in game 4, and certainly their bats did it in game 3 rather, and their bats did it in game 4. But I am skittish on both these bullpens, and that's why. I mean, my theory on first fives and taking the bullpens out of play. They were bad throughout the regular season. They have been better in the postseason, but even Texas last night gave up 6 runs in the last 2 innings. So, and I don't know if that's just the game, the way it unfolded, that makes them, not be as focused. But man, I don't know. I just don't trust either one of these bullpens here. And it's hard for me to look at a full game. You have to lean the Texas bats. Arizona's bats, they scored just 2 runs through the first 16 innings of games at Chase Field until that 6-run outburst I talked about in the final 2 innings last night. So I'm wondering if Arizona's bats can get it done here. But I think in general, Eovaldi and Gallen should be able to get through the order one time unscathed tonight. And if they do that, I think the damage can be limited to under 4.5 here between these 2 starters. So, for me, I won't try to get involved in a full game. I just don't trust either one of these bullpens enough to do so.
Yeah, and something I talked about the other day, like the Diamondbacks gave one up. The Rangers pen's gonna, like, I really thought they would choke one away at some point. Just from like, you go back to the regular season, these were bottom like 15 bullpens. Like, neither were really, neither were in the top half throughout the course of the regular season. Arizona had an unreal September, and then the Rangers really has come on more in the postseason. But I mean, neither of these were elite bullpens this year. We saw Arizona give one up in game 1. So it's like, I still think Arizona's got a little bit of a bullpen edge, especially when you consider the fact that you've got Ginkle, Sewald, and Thompson coming off some rest. And Lovello has to manage that. Like, there's no reason to save anyone if you're Arizona. Like, you have to win tonight or it's over. So I actually kind of see a bullpen advantage here for the Diamondbacks for that reason. And so that's kind of what pushed me over the edge, thinking that Gallen can at least match Eovaldi. And then we get into the later innings, and Arizona might have a little bit of an advantage on their home field.
By the way, it's also worth noting that Ketel Marte of the D-backs has a hit in like every postseason game this year. So you might just take him to get a base hit tonight on the prop line, just continue the streak and see why not. And I will say this, the other part of the full game that scares me a little bit, and I don't know who's better at this from a managing standpoint, whether it's Bochy or Lovullo, but for Lovullo right now, the high leverage situation could present itself in the 3rd inning or the 4th inning. Do you go get your best reliever? Some of these managers are so conditioned that guy has got to pitch in the 7th, 8th, or 9th, and that's not the case. The high leverage situation for Arizona with 2nd and 3rd and 1 out may come in the 3rd inning, where you go get that guy and bring him in, despite the fact that it's Zach Gallen on the mound. You just, you have to manage like every inning is the 9th inning and go get your best guy available. So, that's the other part with Arizona that scares me. Is just, do I know if Lovullo is that type of manager that will get his high leverage guy in the 3rd or 4th inning if he needs it, or is he going to try to trust Gallen to get through it? Next thing you know, it could be 4-0 by the time the next high leverage situation presents itself, and then it's not so high leverage anymore.
No, it's such a good point, and I think the more, like, Bochy's not going to do that here. See, that's the thing. Lovello will, without a doubt, because he can go to Thompson for some length if he needs to. And he'll worry about game 6 if game 6 even happens. Bochy's going to kick his feet up like he's been doing all season. He's going to manage this like a regular season game. and he's gonna be fine with what he's got in Game 6 and make sure that his high leverage relief guys that he wants out there are ready for Game 6. I can guarantee that he's not going to do anything crazy, but Lovello might because he has to.
All right, game 5 rather on tap tonight in
5, yeah.
Arizona at Chase Field. All right, let's pivot to our weekly NFL Survivor discussion here, Trigg. And it's interesting. You and I have beat the drum for several weeks about zigging one of the teams zag and everything else, and just surviving and moving on. And now we get presented this week with a whole variety of options, I think, to tease with a lot of teams that most people probably still have available when you look at, the scenario that's unfolded. And the two that jump off the page immediately, obviously, are probably Cleveland and New Orleans. Any trepidation on either one of those teams from Survivor?
Well, I suppose Cleveland a little bit, only because it's I would want Watson out there. I just think Walker is more capable of losing you a game. So Watson, it looks like he's practicing. I'd want to see if I could keep an eye on that and see if he's announced good to go before I back Cleveland. So now, Mark, I think more importantly than, early on, the whole zigzag thing, people get mad when we talk about that. It's like the reason for that is you want to make sure you're getting good pick equity with your teams, and you want to make sure you're leaving yourselves options to use at a later date. So now I think the most important thing now, if you're still in Survivor competitions, is get that Excel spreadsheet out and start mapping this out and figure out if you use a team this week, is there a better chance to use them? Is there not? Are you going to need the Browns for week 15? Because that might sway your decision here. In this case, I think it's Browns Saints, and I don't have my Excel sheet up in front. I should probably. I haven't fully made it yet, but I do think it's Browns Saints that are like almost interchangeable, where like you could come back and use one. I believe the Saints have the Giants, and the Browns play another winnable game later in the year, maybe the Bears, both on the same week. So kind of something good to think about there. I also think you can make a pretty good case for the Saints, in this spot on their home field. But again, you're talking about touchdown favorites here. I mean, these are not this isn't the 14 point layup home favorite. So the way I'm going to look at these is, if it looks like it's a pretty sharp, good bet against the spread, like let's say Saints -7 or Cleveland -8 looks to be a good bet. Well, then I'm more inclined to use it in Survivor. If not, I'm not going to rule out other options like the Falcons. If Taylor Heineke starts, the Falcons become that much more appealing. They were really just a lot better when he was in last week, but they haven't really announced that yet. And if it becomes Desmond Ridder, he's not a guy I want my Survivor livelihood on at all. Now, Thursday night games have been tough, but the Steelers are a home favorite that has some appeal to me.
Really?
They have some appeal to me. Like, I think, the Titans come off that big win. Guys like Will Levis and these backup quarterbacks that come out and get a win on the week where they just kind of got thrown into the fire, they tend to play well. When teams have a little bit of time to prepare for them, or like in Levis's case, he's going to have to prepare on a short week, that tends to be difficult. So, again, these Thursday night games have been tough. I don't know if I want to come right out and say Steelers are a good Survivor option, but if you start to get past the top pit, like for example, the Ravens are one that if you still have them available, I suppose they're an option. I don't know if I love them this week. The Seahawks feel like a little bit of a live underdog to me, Mark. So, and then you start to scrape the bottom of the barrel after that. So I think right now the teams I'm kind of eyeing would be Cleveland's the obvious one. And the hard part about Cleveland is Arizona's probably going to beat someone at some point. That's the only thing that starts to give me a little bit of pause. They haven't played so bad that they're not capable of coming up and nipping one of these teams. And if PJ Walker ended up being the quarterback, I don't know, man. The Browns had a win. It felt like they had a win last week up in Seattle. They blow it late. They have to now travel back across the country and come home. I have a weird feeling about the Browns. Even though that looks like the easiest one, I have a bad feeling about them, Mark. I don't know if I want to use the Browns on multiple entries.
I mean, it's one of those things where you have to look across the landscape right now, and because you're getting so much quarterback shuffling going on, right? I mean,
Yep.
Arizona just traded Josh Dobbs, so they're starting a brand new quarterback. So, that's a question mark. Talked about the Falcons. By the way, officially, Desmond Ridder has been named the starter for this week. So the Falcons have a new starter. The Vikings have a new starter under center. The Chicago Bears are going back to Trent Badgett, right? And he's going to start
Tyson.
again.
Yep.
Tyson, sorry, hasn't been great at all. I'll give you one more, and I beat the drum for these guys last week, and we didn't go down that road, but I just made the case for it, and thankfully we didn't because they lost. But a good bounce back spot here for the Houston Texans against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Houston had their worst performance of the year last week against the Panthers on the road. They're coming back home. And a place where they have been much better at home this year than they have on the road. And in fact, other than the Colts, they've won their other 2 home games. They haven't been home that much this year, too, all things considered. But that is an offense and a pass offense that I still want to trust at this point in time with C.J. Stroud.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's a good opportunity against a bad, Buccaneers team overall that is very offensively inept. And that's the other part of this. I know Tampa Bay has had extra rest because of the Thursday night game they played last week. But Baker Mayfield is not the answer at quarterback, and the Buccaneers offense can't get anything done. If the Texans get to 21-24 in this game, I feel pretty good about them winning it outright. Tampa Bay may be able to make it close, but this is a game script for me where I look at Houston saying they should play with a lead for a better part of this game, if not the entire thing. There's not a reason why, other than Tampa scoring on their opening drive the first time they touched the ball. I don't know that Houston defensively or offensively doesn't match up better than Tampa Bay does against them, right? I think position for position, I give them the edge here. So I would rely on Stroud to have a better performance than he had last week against the Panthers and bounce back. And Houston's offense wakes back up. I think the Texans are a decent survivor play. When you talk about mapping it out, they get the Bengals next week. They get the Cardinals 2 weeks down the road, then the Jaguars and the Broncos. So there's not really, unless you want to save them for the Cardinals. Sure. But who knows? They have another 3 tough opponents over the next 5 weeks. And who knows what their season is going to look like 6 weeks down the road. But again, right after the Cardinals, it's Jaguars, Broncos, Jets, Titans on the road, then Browns. I mean, it's, that gets you through Christmas. This might be your best shot here to use Houston if you'd like to try to get him in Survivor.
Yeah, Mark, I've always kind of made the rule, you don't save middling teams, right? Like if you have an opportunity to use the Texans, take it. Like you don't save that team for 4 weeks down the road because they don't have the type of depth that some of these elite teams do, where you just know, like barring, like for example, the Chiefs or someone like that, barring like Mahomes going out, like they're still going to be probably like a worthy, pretty big favorite against an inferior team. I love the Texans call here. I actually probably like it more than the Steelers. I think if they're a better home, like short home favorite option than the Steelers, only because it's like not that primetime Thursday night short week game where we see crazy stuff happen all the time. And I got to be honest, like if you talked about Ridder being named the starter, I'm off the Falcons. Like I have no interest in the Falcons with Desmond Ridder under center.
Heineke.
Oh, okay, Heineke did. Okay, so see, my screen still said TBD, but like I thought, no, that's okay. Like I was gonna say, I thought it might be Heineke. Yeah, so if I'm like sort of grading these out, and the other thing too is like if you still have multiple entries, it's okay to like, let's say you still have 3, like I still have 4 entries in Circus Survivor. I may put one on the Browns, but almost like hope they lose in a sense, like because I'm anticipating so many people use the Browns that it's like, okay, well I'll put one of these here just to, because I have a feeling 600-700 of the 1,200 remaining might use them. But it actually is probably better for me if it loses. I'll play it like that sometimes. So I try to figure out where the group think is going to go and gravitate toward. And that's starting to look like Browns or Saints this week. And then I'll try to go and maybe, it'll either be Falcons, Steelers, and then Texans is a really good, it's a great point you make right there. I think they are in a good spot at home. And again, I'm not worried about saving a team like the Texans because that team is an injury or 2 away from not being very good. Really so
yeah,
right. So there's no reason to save a team like the Texans. Listen, you want to save the Eagles for Christmas? That's fine. You're probably good doing that. But a team like the Texans, if you've got a chance to use them and it makes sense, just use them now and worry about who you're going to use in week 15, a little bit later down the road. That's how I would look at that.
All right. Well, we got a lot of great information for you guys. Again, make sure that you guys like and subscribe to the Wager Talk YouTube channel. Hit that like button and Be alerted of any of our betting content by subscribing to the channel. As always, check out Trigg's 30 teams, 30 days for college hoops as we're ramping up college hoop season as well. And of course, we'll have a big card for the NFL and college football coming up. And hope you all took advantage of our $2 Tuesday yesterday. It was a great promotion across Wager Talk and Sports Memo, and a lot of great information from great handicappers given out. So stay tuned to Wager Talk going forward for more specials and promotions. But make sure you guys follow Adam Trigger on Twitter /X at TopFlightSI. I'm at Mark Zinno, MarkZinno. That'll do it for this edition of The Hustle Short. Tomorrow, full episode of The Hustle Show, 1 hour right here on Wager Talk TV. So for Adam Trigger, I'm Mark Zinno. Enjoy the World Series tonight. Go cash some tickets. We'll talk to you tomorrow.